Good evening. A very warm welcome to another round of professional talk series, our first in January. I know we got used to the holidays, the traffic is just building up, so the first weekend on the Monday, I know it's very difficult to come, but thank you all for coming. In fact, it was a coincidence. I met Mr. Khushiram a few days back, and when we had a lunch meeting, it was supposed to be for about 45 minutes to 1 hour. It turned out to be 3 hours. That gave me an idea as to why not organize a talk with such a articulate person and a renowned thinker. It's a great pleasure, Mr. Khushiram, to welcome you. We have a person who's an economist, a policy maker, as also a thought leader. Mr. Khushiram has been a postgraduate from Delhi University, the prestigious Delhi School of Economics, and also from the University of Ontario. He joined the Central Bank in 1976 and was closely associated for about 10 years. After that, he took a bit of an entrepreneurial journey, became a stockbroker, and also got into the investment banking business, investment management business. He was the chairperson of the stock exchange in 93-94. In 2000, he was elected to the parliament. He was a minister of economic development, financial services, and corporate affairs, and subsequently also minister of industrial affairs until about 2005. As a minister, he led a wide range of economic and financial reforms, including new legal and institutional frameworks for the non-bank financial sector. After that, he acted as senior advisor to the president of the African Development Bank and also worked as an AFDB representative till about 2011 in Egypt. You all must be knowing he writes very regularly for financial magazines, financial newspapers. His articles are very, very, what I would say, pointed, well-researched. And I think we are lucky to have him at a time when a lot of his thoughts are going to be articulated perhaps by the policymakers. So in a way, I think we are very lucky that in IBC we have somebody like Mr. Khushiram who has agreed to come and talk to us. Mr. Khushiram, the Indian Business Council was established about 4 years ago. Basically comprises members from both Indian community as well as Mauritian community. The only technical factor that we all have to be residents of Mauritius. Comprises major Indian public sector companies, well-known Indian companies as well as Mauritian companies, and quite a few which are entrepreneurs who have set up businesses in Mauritius. So we have a fairly wide range of people, and one good thing about us is that our membership represents members who understand India, who understand Mauritius, and also understand Africa. So that makes us very interesting. It also plays a very strong advocacy role, and we would like to play that role more and more to promote the interests of its members. And we are also working very, very closely with a large number of business associations in India, as also here, so that we can really promote businesses over here. The other interesting thing that we have been associated for the last 1 year is that we work very closely with the EDB, namely their Sea Trades Mauritius Hub, which is created for capacity building for women entrepreneurs, and which is a part of our CSR, and which will continue to do hopefully. We are looking forward to your thoughts today, the challenges faced by the Mauritian economy and the strategies and opportunities for course correction. And based on your recent request, we'll do it in the format of a fireside chat. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, please join in welcoming Mr. Khushiram and a warm round of applause. The current global economy is going through a lot of changes. In fact, you see the inflation is very high. We have uncertain global scenario. We have a number of wars going on. Shortage of food products. European economy has slowed down. Of course, the American economy is doing very well, and so parts of Asia which is doing well. Africa, as usual, a lot of promise, but challenges in terms of shortage of hard currency as well as fairly high degree of inflation. There's also the problem in terms of regional challenges which are there. So it is in this context, in fact, we would like to discuss about Mauritius in particular, Africa in general, in the world, of course. You are a highly acclaimed economist, and most of us, quite a few of us, would have seen your articles. Fairly well researched and fairly pointed. I think it is in this context we would like to have the discussion with you. In fact, what we will do is that after I think we will have the chat for about 25-30 minutes, and we will open the forum for all of you, so that we take the benefit of Mr. Khushiram being here and get all his thought processes. Particularly, all of us are also very keen to know as to how Mauritius will be changing in the coming years from the business point of view. While we had discussed a few days back, you had very interesting stories about how Mauritius succeeded in number of areas and became leaders in its own respective field, be it tourism, financial services, and textile exports. You have also been talking about how these ingredients of success happen there, and how do we learn from there to move to the next cycle of success.
Suresh, thank you very much for the invitation. It's my great pleasure to be here, and thank you for your presence. I think I'm glad we are adopting this formula of question and answer session, whereby I do hope you will all participate so have an interesting later discussion. Okay. Better now? Better now?
Yes.
Right. So, many of you are, some of you are Mauritian, most of you are Indian. So your question, I will try to answer your question in a way to help you understand the course of development of Mauritius. As independence, first regime was mostly influenced by Fabian thoughts. Many of our first decision makers were trained in the UK, Fabian socialism. So we first started off with welfare state, pension system, strong role for government. We didn't go very far, but we started setting up things for development, for growth and development. Obviously based on sugar, where we had preference. We had a preferential access to the European Union as a former ACP country, Africa, Caribbean, Pacific. Former colonies which were producing sugar. So we already had some sort of special access to preferential treatment. We inherited preferences on sugar. Our basic kind of thinking at the time was, we're too small a country to survive in this world. We need preferences. And this is what kind of underlined most of our development subsequently. We started branching out in textiles. And there again, we had preferential treatment. There was a multi-fiber agreement, which was abrogated when China joined the WTO in 2000, but until then, we served on the preferences that the multi-external development provided us. Additionally, we benefited from uncertainty about Hong Kong, where the government then, around 1983, managed to convince many of the Taiwanese investors who were uncertain about the future of Hong Kong to come and invest in Mauritius. So there again, we just prefer to kind of smart thinking, see how to exploit uncertainties and how to attract foreign investment. We developed tourism initially. Our first hotels only had residents, stewards of airlines or hostesses or pilots. We gradually started building it, mostly from South African tourists nearby. Our tourism sector even reached a crisis stage in 1983, when Mauritians had to sell 2 hotels. Can you believe it? Mauritians selling their hotels? They did to South African investors. One major one, Sushil probably a world genius in tourism development. He went off to later to develop tourism in Caribbean, Dubai. In fact, he took our tourism to a much higher level. Some of the first pioneers in tourism, Mauritius, even acknowledged that, saying he taught us all about selective tourism, high-end tourism. So we branched out, and again, tourism, you could say, is a bit like a preference. Mauritius is gifted with sand, sea, and beautiful environment. So basically, we always been trading on advantages that we have. Additionally, the other advantage obviously is bilingual, we have rule of law, democracy, fairly available labor, surplus labor for textiles, for instance, educated labor later on for financial services. And here again, when financial services started, it was again the basis of preference, tax treaty with India. We thought about using that tax treaty to develop our financial services. We were banking on South Africa then. We thought South Africa, they had exchange control, they were apartheid, all their money went to the Channel Islands. And we thought if we get a couple of billions from them, that would help our financial. It didn't happen that way. Fortuitously, somebody found the tax treaty with India more interesting, and it just bloomed and expanded. I was fortunate enough to help with its expansion. So this is how we progressed. But the bottom line is, we always had some trying to we tried to leverage preferences. We did not emphasize so much on developing our own preference, rather one that would be available for trade or preferential tax treaty or the kind of special arrangement. We diversified a little bit since. We did try to expand to ICT. Not much progress except some call centers. Because basically we didn't have inherent advantage. We don't even have that labor now to work in ICT. We didn't have the high skilled labor to do high value ICT activities. We've tried exporting some canned tuna, some of it. And lastly, we're still taking advantage of some special preference. We have monkeys here, we're trying to export them. That's about the last export sector we're trying to develop. So the bottom line is our growth and development basically followed the motto of exports for growth and development on the basis of preference. What next? How do we ensure that growth? How do we diversify it? Maybe we'll have unfortunately your subsequent questions.
Yeah, in fact, exactly. I think you're right on that. What, according to you, are the top challenges right now? And how do you think the government should confront to resolve these challenges?
You know about the Mauritian economy, there's a state of the economy that was published recently. You know much about how the economy has been evolving and some of the challenges ahead, but let me try to encapsulate in a few sentences for you. We have remember I told you about how we started with welfare state, the idea that Mauritius have to follow left-based distributive policy. this has been a mainstay of most regimes. At every election, we either say we're going to give free education, the next one we're going to give free transport, then we say we double pensions. This is how there's a grain of populism that is inherent in Mauritian politics. In 1983, it led us to a crisis. We had the 1979 oil crisis, plus populist policies led us to our first major economic and financial crisis in Mauritius, when we had reserves for about 2 weeks. And we devalued about 30%. We called in the IMF. We had a major restructuring program. I'm afraid we might be facing the same. The reasons are we have the same fiscal deficit. We have a record fiscal deficit of about 8% of GDP, and depending on how you define it, might be close to 10%. This is a record. Of course, during COVID, it was even higher, but that was COVID. Now we have it about, it's far too high for economic and financial stability in Mauritius. It is leading to a major current account deficit, which is also quite high, causing the depreciation of the rupee, pushing inflation, so there's general instability around. And obviously, we can keep running high deficits, but there's something that will give way, that will lead you into crisis, and for a highly open economy like Mauritius, it will be your exchange rate needed for exchange crisis. What is our external balance, current account external balance? We export $2.4 billion. It's been stagnant for the past 3 years. And remember, I told you, most of our growth and development is value exports. Tourism, sugar, financial services. Now it's stagnant. It is goods. I'm talking about goods first, right? 2.4 billion goods stagnant. What do we import? In dollars, $2.4 billion. How much do we import? $6.4 billion. It's very disparate goods imbalance, which means we have a deficit on goods of $4 billion. It is offset by a surplus in services, which includes tourism, for instance, of $1 billion. GBC services bring us another $1 billion. And thirdly, there's an element called primary income and account balance, is another $1 billion. So if the deficit of 4 kind of offset by 3, we're left with a deficit of $1 billion. And that's how much our external reserves have been declining for the past 3 years. Our reserves are now net reserves about a little over $5 billion. If we keep going at that rate, we're going to, in 3 to 4 years, we're going to reach Sri Lanka. Okay? The ship for Sri Lanka is already safe. So that's the topmost challenge. We need to revive our exports. We need to see how to curtail our imports. And that can only be done if we correct our fiscal deficit. So we need a lot of structural reforms to be done on the fiscal side. Fiscal and monetary tightening are essential to release the pressure on the rupee. Otherwise, it's going to keep sliding, and our reserves being goes to about 3 levels. So that's in my view, is what's staring in front of us. Hopefully, with the state of the economy, I think the new government has been able to instill a new sense of urgency that we need to do something to stabilize this.
The public debt to GDP is very high, 75%.
Absolutely, it's good you point that out, because there's another crisis that can even come before a foreign exchange crisis, or that can even lead to a foreign exchange crisis before we run out of reserves. And that's the external debt situation. which is too high. It's about more than 84%. We are rated by Moody's as investment grade. Why is that rating critical to Mauritius? That's another critical element. It's good that you reminded me of that. Is that much of the foreign exchange deposits that come to Mauritius, or because of the fact that we are investment grade, one of the few investment grade countries in Africa, along with Seychelles. If we lose that investment grade status, which is likely to happen, in my view, in about 2 to 3 months, Moody's will start threatening us with a downgrade on the outlook and eventually on the grade itself. If we go down to junk status, much of those foreign exchange deposits will no longer come from Mauritius. Much of our banking system is now rests on lending out these foreign deposits to foreign borrowers. One of the largest banks in Mauritius gets 2/3 of its profits in the way saw disintermediation of foreign exchange deposits to African and other lenders who see trade. Those are bankers you would notice. So this will fragilize our banking system, maybe crisis of confidence, maybe a crash, money moving out, capital outflows. So it's a major threat. So the debt issue, if not corrected, along with the fiscal deficit, because they interlink, you borrow more, your debt goes home, it increases. So you're right in pointing out that the debt issue can precipitate a foreign crisis even before. So there's an urge to correct the fiscal deficit.
Mauritius is always referred to as a gateway to Africa, and which we have been hearing for quite some time. Because a stable economy, relatively stable economy, excellent legal system, and a good democratic system. What learnings can we take from other financial centers? Because I'm talking about the other global financial centers to evaluate our current positioning and also stay competitive, particularly when all the financial centers are competing with each other.
So my Mauritian friends I know in the financial services sector will can confirm we have been talking about Mauritius being the gateway for Africa for the past 2 to 3 decades. It didn't happen for several reasons. But it would be too long to recapitulate. Let's say, as of now, it is even less likely. If you read the latest economist report, special report on Africa, it came out in the first week of January, it says Africa is falling behind in terms of per capita income vis-à-vis the rest. It says African investment is at its worst level ever. It is extremely pessimist on Africa. Maybe about 10 years ago, a decade ago, it was a bit of optimism about Africa rising continent. But it looks like it will keep rising and remain as a rising continent. Things in Africa are not good. And it is unlikely that foreign investment will surge to Africa or even consider us as a pathway to Africa. So the prospects of attracting foreign investment to Africa through us are less and less likely. I know how Mauritius became a center for basing many private equity groups into Africa. That's an interesting story. I won't bore you with it. But it was again a bit like a preference. It's technical to go into it. But somehow it happened. I am not so convinced that we can play the role of the gateway to Africa in a serious sense. What I do see, some of the positive elements that I do see though, is that Mauritian business in investing more in Africa, many conglomerate groups, rightly or wrongly, in my opinion, have kind of written off Mauritius. 1/3 of the investment is in Mauritius, very much in property development, some of the live business. But most of the investment now is outside Mauritius, including Africa. Mauritian businesses are investing in commercial centers in Kenya, power in Africa, power stations. They have some experience about producing power in Mauritius, which they're using that experience in Africa. Sugar, of course, which is a strong interest and experience, expertise. We see that. So the Mauritian business invests in Africa. There's strong interest from South African banks. They're present here. There's Standard Bank, very dynamic, aggressive, Mauritian bank, investing. A lot of South African businesses are still coming to Mauritius to structure and invest in the rest of Africa. So there is still some promise, but it doesn't seem like a big breakthrough. It doesn't seem like business that we've had with India, with these tax treaty. So gateway to Africa is still promise, waiting to be realized more fruitfully and constructive. But that's something we can discuss a bit more about ideas how to make it happen in a more significant way.
Yeah, Mr. Khushiram, then how can Mauritius reposition itself?
That's a big question. So to answer that, we'll retrace some of the things I've said before. We have to build an inherent strength that will make us different, that will make us on which we can build export prospects, growth prospects. If you look at countries like Singapore or Dubai, far from comparing ourselves with them, but we can learn a little bit from their development. They have basically taken advantage of their environment. Singapore with China, Indonesia, Malaysia, surrounding countries that have been developing, they manage their financial services and other things. Dubai with the oil wealth around it. For Mauritius, if we think in a similar direction, we have to see how we can be complementary to poles of growth, areas of development around us. And the two main ones are South Africa and India. Of course, we have the rest.
Can I interject for a minute? Dubai did not have oil. It's Abu Dhabi, but Dubai completely positioned itself so well that Dubai's business model has become far more compelling compared to Abu Dhabi or even, for that matter, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is trying to compete with UAE right now. So that's what I'm saying. Dubai could create something out of nowhere. Isn't it possible for Mauritius?
That's what I'm trying to do. To do that, to be interesting to India and South Africa, the two major growth poles in this region. What do we have? People. We have declining population, low growth population growth rate. So we have to think a bit like Singapore, which have 1 million foreigners in their total population of 5 million. Singapore, Dubai, which is more than half of expatriates. 90% expatriates. So we have to stay in the same direction of making Mauritius attractive, top foreign skills and investment. We have to be more than open to that. Along with it, of course, we have to develop our local skills as well. We have to give topmost priority to education. Be as smart as Singaporeans to accompany that growth. These are some of the basic things I think a lot of time to reach fruition. But without that, these are the inherent strengths that we have on our own. Taking advantage of our presence next to South Africa and India, but building our own skills. I think our people, our experience, the knowledge of development that we've had so far, our bilingualism, the knowledge of business that we've had with Europe, dealing with European tourists, African businessmen, Indian business. It's a wealth of experience that people who operate in business in Mauritius have, which they can transmit to other young, well-trained Mauritians, but basically rely on a lot of expatriate skill and entrepreneurial talent to bring to Mauritius. For that, we would need some of the examples of how we do that. I mean, I was very impressed meeting Suresh because he's trained at Jawaharlal Nehru University from IIM. For me, IIT, Jawaharlal Nehru University, or Indian Institute of Medical Sciences, IIMs. I have a lot of friends who gone through these institutions. I rate them as the brightest Indians, and they all go and take big companies in the US, which they manage, right? Extremely bright. Why don't we get IIT to set up a branch? People will be talking about AI. I remember when we promoted the ICT industry, we never pitched it high value added because we couldn't even do call center processing. Okay? Forget high value added. But now what our approach should be to tell skilled people in ICT or AI, you come to Mauritius and do it here. Okay? We offer you favorable tax environment, good environment, and we're going to acknowledge that foreigners are going to be the biggest market.
Mr. Khushiram, I would like to say that I find Mauritius is quite off-center in terms of travel. Even the African businessmen do not travel to Mauritius. They prefer traveling to London. There are historical linkages with London or Dubai. The private bankers from Dubai fly down to all over Africa, including to Mauritius, including to Madagascar. But we do not have a private banking industry here. We are not connected in terms of airlines connectivity. We have a reasonably poor connectivity. So I think a lot of those challenges are also there when we are benchmarking ourselves with Singapore or, for that matter, Dubai. Frankly, we need to now, I think, perhaps have to start to look at the good practices in smaller centers, pick up those, and then move to the next level. So my next question would be then, so that is one, and I'm sure my colleagues will be asking those questions. Now everyone is going to talk about President Trump, who will be taking oath very soon. What do you think the Trump factor effect will be on Mauritius in particular, Africa in general, and the world in particular?
So I think the Trump thing, just come back to what you said, the repositioning is not only attracting talent, building talent, but also, as you said, doing everything that would connect us more with South Africa. Travel is extremely important. Airline connections. We have a moribund, bankrupt airline. Why don't we bring in an African airline as strategic partner? Air India as a strategic partner to try to build these connections. Plus other ways of connecting us to these countries. During our discussion, we talk about stock exchange. We have a stock exchange. That's okay, but it's extremely limited. Why don't we have the Johannesburg stock exchange, the best stock exchange, come in as a strategic partner with our stock exchange and the national stock exchange? Bombay Stock Exchange, national exchange, one of them comes as a strategic partner in our stock exchange. These are ways of building up airline connection, capital markets with these two countries on which we hope will win our development. That's for repositioning, but we can continue the conversation. other ways of repositioning ourselves for greater, better development. On Trump, obviously, people who didn't realize that there's a new American president called Trump, Mauritians who have not been paying attention, have had to, after hearing about Chateau's deal, whereby we now need Mr. Trump to approve the agreement we have concluded with the United Kingdom. Trump is a puzzle. You may take him as the despicable, uneducated, bad-mannered billionaire, kind of a bit racist as well. That would be the most layman interpretation of what Trump stands for. But I think it's a bit more complicated than that. I think he's a lot of bluff and buster. I think he's basically riding on economic issues, because globalization and what we economists thought was solution to the world problem is globalization and all that. It has impacted manufacturing in the US and jobs. There's economic issues which Trump is right. Along, he's mixed it with identity issues in the US, whereby there's a lack of Americans are not happy to see immigrants of all colors kind of taking front space, front line in American society. Maybe there's a resentment against immigrants and their success. He's riding on that as well. But I think he basically is just rides on that popular dissatisfaction from different points, identity, or nationalistic, or economic, to push a rightist agenda, which is cut taxes, reduce regulations, especially in climate-related industries, and try to make America, consolidate America as the number one power in the military and economic power. I think that's basically what his program would be. So in that sense, I'm not too concerned about the impact that it's going to have on the rest of it. Although everybody at the moment thinks that everybody's very scared, he's going to bring inflation with tariffs, he's going to destabilize, like stop wars with China, or, he's kind of a horror story, fear. But I feel his whole positioning, basically his billionaire friends are more interested in, making money than creating wars. Just an example. The US has banned TikTok. Biden banned TikTok. And well, it's banned.
We paid out for it just 8 hours and that's
right. Because of my nature. And Mr. Elon Musk has done an interview to say, how this new red note app in China is so good and everything. That's stupid as TikTok. Business to be done. They are threatening his electric car. So business will be the bottom line in the end. The whole Trump cinema. That's my view. Might be wrong. That for the moment is the whole Europe. In that sense, I therefore this whole explanation basically tell you I don't think Trump will cancel the Chatham. He might, put in a few inverted commas or semicolons here and there. But my guess is he will go around.
So the two last questions. One is that Africa has got all the wealth, both in terms of resources, and a lot of African wealth also goes outside to Europe and Asia. Not so much to Europe, that's to Europe. but that is not channelized. My own experience when I was in ICSA from the 80s onwards, we've seen the capital market developing. When the capital market started developing, what happened is the corporate sector started getting a lot of money. And I think which is reflected. Today, I think a lot of corporates don't even have to go to a bank to take money. Can we see something like that happening in Africa? And if you have a lot of experience in that, then we have Nairobi, particularly if you see Johannesburg Stock Exchange to an extent, Nairobi to an extent, and also Lagos, which are strong exchanges. Can Mauritius not become a hub as an African stock exchange? Is it possible?
I think it's absolutely possible. There was an offer of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange around 2010 to take a shareholding in the Mauritius Stock Exchange. And the government of Mauritius then decided against it. The stock exchange was for. I don't know if the Johannesburg Stock Exchange is still interested, but there's also a political line. Governments spoke to each other, revive this idea. In fact, I think it's a critical idea if you want to develop common stock capital markets. And obviously, we have to be like Singapore or Dubai in being a neutral place for business. And basically offering skills and talent, either by Africans who be here or Indians, or especially Africans who are allowed to be working and operating here, or Mauritians who are well skilled and talent. Yes, I think it will take time, but it's something that can be done. And I think for me it's probably one of the only ways Mauritius will find new areas.
The last one is that we have seen the gift city emerging very strongly in India. My own experience in a limited way, and we have a lot of our colleagues who are in the financial service sector, they would maybe think about it better, is that many of the structures which would have otherwise come to Mauritius are slowly moving to the gift city. And many of the financial structuring companies from here have also started opening up offices in gift city in India. How do you think Mauritius can collaborate to ensure that it continues to sustain and do not completely lose out the gifts? For the India business, I'm only talking about the India business.
Building and focusing on gift city just to kind of put life in the Mauritius India tax treaty, in my view, would not be productive. I think the India Mauritius tax treaty is outlived its usefulness. What we need to go beyond that to think that Mauritius will be a low tax economy. Because that's the only way we will survive. And India will remain a high tax economy for quite some time now. These differential tax rates is where what we need to take advantage of to advance India-Mauritius business. So gift city, if it can play a role in that, a gift city that is just focusing on channeling investments through Mauritius on the basis of double taxation treaty, in my view, is not foreign. I think that's outlined in its use. I would think more, maybe there are ideas about to revive it. I understand gift city costs higher than in Mauritius, office space and even personal expenses. So moving there, companies that are moving there despite higher costs means that they don't kind of see Mauritius being a critical place to be, right? So what we need to think broader is to see how our low tax can be more attractive for Indian businesses to be based here. Not only for export to African markets or elsewhere, which would again be based on tax treaties, advantages, and all that, but basically to develop parts of their business here. I'm thinking of AI, research. I mean, if I say you have an IIT here, that's great. I'm talking about IIT because when I was a minister, I got 2 IIT people to come here, and we developed a plan to set up an IIT in Mauritius, which would be 50% Indian students, 50% Mauritian students. As you know, Mauritian students, not many Mauritian students go to IIT. They can go to Oxford, Cambridge, not many of them get to IIT. Why? Because it's a 30 exam they have to take. Okay? And even if they get admission, the composition of the right students there is tough. Okay? So we even arranged that there would be a special course for Mauritians to be able to pass that exam and get into so 50%, right? I'm not being derogatory to Mauritians or anything, but the facts, how many Mauritians come from IIT? Very few. It's easier to study elsewhere than to go to India and get an IIT. So I think get an IIT here, maybe specializing in AI, okay? And that universities attract business like Silicon Valley and Boston or elsewhere, and get Indian businesses to do some of their research and development activities here, close to a university. There is also biomedical technology. One of the good things the previous government did, and that was very much on the impulsion of the late financial secretary, was to start biomedical ecosystem in Mauritius. I understand there's an article by one of the biomedical people in the latest issue of Business magazine. He gives all the details of the progress that was done. I think the aim of this article was to show how they've tried to make Mauritius into a biomedical center. So there is scope and work has started in this, and we should continue in that direction. And probably not with Indian pharmaceutical and other businesses. Obviously not to produce something, forget it. Right? We don't have the labor to do it, but maybe more high value activity, which we done by those top skilled medical people. Clinical testing and all. In fact, as you know, I don't know if I should be saying that, but one of the largest investments in Mauritius it was done by Charles River. They bought a lot of land in the west of the island, southwest of the island, which where there are monkeys. Some of the monkeys are shipped to the US. That's costly for them. So they decided, why do we take the monkeys there for testing? We're going to come to Mauritius and do it here. So it's happening. I understand there are 2 representatives that are in Mauritius and been talking to government about setting up a whole regulatory structure, regulatory framework for clinical testing. Obviously, it's a delicate issue, so I should be. That's why I said I should be talking about this. Sensitive thing, animal testing. Some people, I talked to my daughter the other day. She says, no, she's against it. But it's, and this gives you an indication of, but they would come with their whole team, the whole American clinical research. Charles River would come here with their clinical research. And a lot of drugs. Maybe ideas like these, how we would rely on niche biomedical industry to do something.
Thank you. In fact, now I'll open it up for questions, please.
Sir, thank you very much for speaking your mind. I know there are not many people who can speak openly about their thoughts. And that actually sort of raised too many questions in my mind, but I think I won't ask all of them. Just from a Mauritius perspective, and we know Mauritius came from what stage to what stage where it has reached was incredible. Now we see that there is stagnancy, obviously the economy is not doing that well. Do you think it is lack of vision or lack of vision?
The obvious answer is probably both. I think we got complacent. We've had it too good for a while, and we were very successful, say, in financial services. We became the third largest woolen exporter of woolen knitwear in the world, and then the industry got wiped out. I can't even buy Kashmir sweater in Mauritius, and you realize. I have the last shop was about 4 years, 5 years ago. You can't get a Kashmir sweater made in Mauritius anymore. Financial services, many of our young professionals have made a great career out of it. They worked hard and they've achieved great success. Many of them have sold their businesses to foreign groups, which are now just turning our financial services into back office outsourcing centers. And many Mauritians in the financial services sector want to work abroad now. Right? Paradoxical. So maybe sometimes we've had it too good. We've kind of let down our creative and innovative ideas. We just probably need to wake up again, revive our motivation and energies to think of new things and how we keep the Mauritian development story a success.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Khushiram, for your candid views on the Mauritian economy. I have two questions. One is on the high level of debt external debt the Mauritian economy faces. I think it's close to 84% as of now. So what can the government do to actually reduce this debt? Number one. Number two, you talked about crisis blooming in the foreign currency market. Well, I believe the crisis is already there. I think we are facing a lot of shortage of dollars for the last 1 year. And in spite of the tourism going up, we're not seeing any substantial availability of the dollars in the market. So I fully agree with you that we are facing a deep crisis in the foreign exchange market. So what can be done to actually save the situation for the country?
As I explained earlier, the pressure on the external account is basically comes from the large fiscal deficit, which has led to huge debt. So obviously, fiscal reform is the starting point to correct the pressure to the rupee and relieve the foreign exchange shortage. Obviously, it will mean cutting spending, raising taxes. Raising taxes, not income tax, because I think our survival, economic survival, depends on your tax. We are a small open economy, we need to attract investment. And investment cannot come to a destination with the high tax rates and capital taxation. So we'll have to cut spending mainly.
This will slow down growth. This will come at the cost of growth. If we cut down expenditure, I think we're talking about lower economic growth.
Not so much, because most of that spending goes out in extra imports, spills over into the external sector. The fiscal stimulus in a small open economy falls on the domestic economy and pulls up growth. But much of it in a highly open economy goes out to the external account and then consumes. This was the the state of trying to build growth on the base of consumption, because consumption has been high, and that pulls down GDP growth. So, you're right, it will have a negative effect on domestic growth, which is why we need to find other avenues to boost growth, to boost exports. Some of the ideas we talked about, there is no immediate solution to boosting growth of the government or any new sector that will replace other declining sectors. Some of the existing sectors could be raised in terms of value added. Financial services, probably private banking or wealth management, but doing it in a way that depends on foreigners. You need to attract large private bankers, banking groups, attract large wealth management groups to Mauritius, give them all the incentives to be based. That would be one way of raising value added and growth in financial services. Other sectors, other services, I don't know which other one. Talk about biomedical, the others we could think of. But I agree with you. Pay attention to growth. But it's absolutely, we need to ward off the Moody's threat. And for that, even if you have to suffer a bit less growth for a while, we'll have to.
Would it be in place to actually replace a high, foreign currency debt with domestic debt?
The fortunate thing, we do not have, our debt is mostly local rupee debt. Moody's would have downgraded us long time before it did not, because of this reason, most of our debt is rupee debt. And intelligently, from the previous government, and there again, I will commend the late financial secretary, is he relied on debt from international institutions. Much of it is African Development Bank, Agence Française de the French Development Agency, Exim Bank of India, okay? Not too much commercial debt. So our foreign debt doesn't exceed 25%. So we don't have that urgency about foreign debt, which is a bit of a relief we have. But still, the debt level is still behind that.
Thoughts on foreign currency? What should be done?
That's a good question. At the moment, the authorities seem to be going the way of taking a lot of administrative measures to try to reduce the foreign exchange score. I personally have doubts that these will be successful, because it's a structural issue. If you have more demand for foreign exchange, it's not by turning a few levers here and there that will change things. So in my view, we have no option. Why we're cutting fiscal deficit, which will create more confidence to the public that the pressure on the group will decline over time, and therefore I'm going to bring back my dollars and keep the lumps. And I'm sure in this, most of you hold dollars, and you're still waiting. How are you going to do in terms of economic? I mean, my dollars back, right? So taking a tightening stance on the fiscal side will surely encourage Mauritius to be more optimistic about bringing their dollars. That's one. The second is if the foreign there is a platform. We know that. Now, you know it's about 50 years. So the state of the economy rightly points to the coming increasing. It doesn't say explicitly, but the document does point to the revision interest rate policy. But let's do it. And clearly, revising interest rate policy will again give confidence and attract more dollars into the market. So there are other ways that the cosmetic approaches we try on. Maybe We want to try the cosmetic approaches to see how it works and then go on to the more serious things. Maybe that's the plan. Okay. But I think we need to move fast on this. As you say, the operators and the public are getting impatient. And we need to address this foreign exchange shortage. The role of a central bank is not to appreciate the rupee, not to stabilize the rupee, but to make sure that the foreign exchange meets the demand, exchange availability meets the demand.
Mr. Khushiram, thank you very much for your thought-provoking exposé of the Mauritian economy. For almost 20 years, we've been speaking and hearing about the blue economy, the blue ocean economy. Is that the reality that's going to happen, or is that just a mirage? We just continue speaking and spending money on having a blue ocean forward and everything, but nothing happening.
I think we keep talking about the blue economy until we turn red. I don't know. Like you, I share your stories. I remember around about 1982, there was a government minister who was talking about exploiting manganese nodules in the Indian Ocean. And he thought that would be the new area of development for Mauritius. So, he didn't keep dreaming. Of course, on that count, maybe on that, there is something a bit corollary to this, and it relates to the Trump effect. Biden as well. As you know, Biden's renewed industrial is planning, which I've fallen into this by pushing for electric car development in the United States, apart from other things as well. Supply side resilience, independence from sensitive countries and all that. Yeah. And so Biden was a solid industrial policy and trying to develop a lot of other activities. A lot of activities related to development of electric vehicles and all that. And in that respect, rare earth minerals are going to be critical to the United States. They want to be geopolitically independent of China, which has a lot of struggle rare earth materials. So Africa there offers a prospect for exploitation. I read recently that there was an American Canadian firm that wanted to exploit some material needed, graphite. It's called graphite in Madagascar, which is needed for electric batteries. And they wanted to set up a processing plant in the west to process the graphite mined out of Madagascar. Probably they didn't think it would be better to be processed here than there's an opportunity. Right? There are a lot of rare earth minerals that are needed by the West to be independent of Chinese supply chains, which they would want to develop in Russia. Maybe we can fit in them. I mean, I know they have a lot of environmental objections against processing of this graphite, processing in Mauritius. Maybe it needs to be reviewed. Maybe there's some safety concerns that can be met. Maybe we can tie it with this thing, with American corruption, African minerals, or something. Just an idea. Could be different. But I just thought it's a bit parallel to exploitation of minerals in the ocean economy. What is the ocean economy? Fish, tuna just travels in the ocean. Okay. Maybe we can. There is some scope in negotiating a better deal with European ships than fish tuna in the ocean. Most of the tuna doesn't go by water. They go to Seychelles. Some of it will go. Okay. They have a deal with us, but it's not a fair. Caribbean countries got a better deal from ships that fish in their waters. But they are smart. They send us some bit of fish to help us to a canning factory, and they give us some kind of free access to the European Union for our canning too. But we can negotiate better. We could try to stop Asian and other ships from fishing in our ocean. I think that's easy to do. What else? Minerals, oil. Yeah, we can keep looking for oil, but it's a very long-term plan. It's not for short-term, not short-term complete ideas. So I share your skepticism.
I just have another question. I mean, you've been speaking a lot about attracting foreign banks, investment, and everything. But how do you feel that our laws to governance, bank governance, central bank governance, will change basically to it every day? Doesn't that create a negativity on the Mauritius financial structure?
Absolutely. I think shocking.
Thank you, Mr. Khushiram, for all these thought-provoking thoughts on the economy. I share again your skepticism, and especially on the crisis that probably our socials are with us very shortly. I've been drafting the UN report, the SDG report, and we have been defining new sectors, among others, the blue economy, biotechnology, pharmaceuticals. I think it has been for 3 years now, but nothing has moved. We have talked about education hub, fintech hub, has not moved. But I think most critical would be one is the Moody's report, right? That I know there is this week a delegation from Mauritius going to meet the Moody's one. But there is also what probably is also coming is the World Bank report on the National Risk Assessment report that is due very soon. And in my opinion, there has been not much progress of what has been done when we were in the Great East. So my just your opinion, because this is a very short term that we have to show to those agencies that we can move the economy upward. But in the short term, because what we are saying coming in terms of new economy is the restructure of our repositioners, this restructure, the structural change will take time. What is in your opinion, because the new government has come for the next, I would say, 6 months, and I know there will be the 24, the government program will be there. So first thing, do we need a budget at least when after the government program is right until June, until then the government can show for the next fiscal year what they are going to do first. And second, what could be done in your opinion that could, very quickly, the economy is not very quick, but to show how we can, come to a position that we don't go in this junk, and also not the greatest.
That's a very good question. There's I think, a good answer to it. The World Bank had proposed its budget support program 2 years ago. It was put in the budget, but it was never used because budget support program, I think it was about $200 million. $250 million. Because a budget support program means that you have to adhere to a lot of conditionalities and restructuring the budget, especially on pensions. And obviously, if you're the government, seeing elections coming ahead, so this, right? So the answer to the question is revive this budget support program. 250 million, ask for $500 million. And sit with the World Bank and draw up a plan of how you're going to revive the national pension scheme, of course, reform, restructure, fully funded national pensions. CLG is central to the consumer real framework by wherever. Review spending priorities, restructuring of the civil service, better project management. I mean, it's classic World Bank social reform program. By announcing this and negotiating hard with the World Bank, how to phase it, and not only the World Bank, the IMF. I'm ashamed to say that my country has been fudging its economic statistics. Never happened. However, previous governments were popular one. No one fudged statistics. And didn't we know they were fudging statistics? The previous director of statistics was kicked out. She had to resign. She was pressured to resign because she refused to fudge this. And are we now confident that the statistics are okay? We need an IMF mission right now to give credibility to our economic statistics. Because that's what Moody's will look at, the World Bank will look at. There are all the things the IMF can do. So we need both these institutions to come in, help us restore our economic credibility and reputation. First, do that reform program. It doesn't have to be major steps. It can start slow, but spread a phase over 5 years. I think that will be the first answer to create the reassurance, confidence, rebuild confidence in the Mauritian economy that we need.
Okay, my last question, just what is your views? Because from international agencies, we were a bit surprised with the new board setup of the MIC. Because from the last Article 4 World Bank report, it was recommended to close the MIC, but we find that there has been a new board. I'm not sure about the strategy. But what is your viewpoint? Because that will be taken up in the next show, the World Bank report. What is your views on the MIC?
You raise a good point. One of the reasons the World Bank Budget Support Program didn't go ahead was because different points of view are MIC. The World Bank insisted that MIC should be rolled down. The government did not. It was one of the points of view. There were other points of view. In my opinion, the MIC is the biggest financial scandal that Mauritius has known since independence. There are people who say, well, because of COVID, we had no option but to help Mauritian business. I will just refer them to Governor Das of the Reserve Bank of India, who said that India is one of the few countries in the world that managed to hold down inflation by resisting the temptation to use central bank money. And Governor Das was right. India didn't face high COVID inflation. We did, because we used central bank printed money. Besides being a financial scandal, it led to inflation. And it is the main reason why Moody's downgraded us.
And if you see, most of the other countries trying to the US prescribed, one of our former central bank governor talked about it. So I think India was perhaps an exception, but the whole world followed that sort of strategy.
Right. The whole world, the advanced world, have reserve currencies. We can afford to, they have more leeway to afford printing. We're a small open economy. You create that kind of monetary expansion, the rupees will depreciate. The rupees depreciate by 40%, 30 to 40% over 3-4 years. You are not, you don't have a reserve currency. You are highly open. You can't compare yourself with what the West has been doing in terms of easy money, in terms of quantitative easing. And there's no comparison. So, one of the reasons why Moody's downgraded us was essentially because of the currency. Moody's been deemed because our debt is mostly rupee debt, and that there are other factors also that play favorably for Mauritius. But the one thing that Moody's protects is that you take 50 billion, 55 billion from the Bank of Mauritius, and you say I've got a balance budget. So that's what Moody's done. Moody's will not accept you consult MIC. We've spent 56 billion rupees from MIC. There are 24 billion lying there. I don't know what government is waiting to return that to Mauritius. We need a forensic audit of MIC immediately.
We'll check if there are a few more questions. Any more questions, please?
Well, it's an absolute honor to actually hear somebody like Mr. Khushiram talk so openly about the state of the Mauritian economy, and I think there are very few people who would be very candid in their observations and also their statements, like Mr. Khushiram has been. So it's my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on this occasion. We had the opportunity to listen to such an insightful and thought-provoking address on the state of the Mauritian economy. On behalf of IBC, sir, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for sharing your expert insights into the state of the Mauritian economy, how it has evolved over the last 4 or 5 decades, and what is actually facing the challenges that the Mauritian economy is facing as of today. Your analysis has actually shed light on some of the pressing issues in the economy, from rising inflation to decreasing population, higher unemployment, to the impacts of the global economic fluctuations on our local currency as well as the industry. The depth of your insight, coupled with the practical solutions that you have suggested, has provided us with a roadmap to actually navigate these complexities effectively. Your emphasis on diversifying our economic sectors by attracting certain new talents, focusing on the India and South Africa markets, fostering innovation and entrepreneurship in some of the new sectors. It has not only inspired us but also serves as a timely reminder for the present government to take steps to ensure resilience and growth in these dynamic times. I also wish to thank SBI, our host and host for most of our Candid Talk series. This also, is a platform where I would like to express my gratitude to all the attendees, who have participated with such enthusiasm and asked certain pertinent questions. Your presence here is a testament to IBC's collective commitment to understanding and contributing to the growth of the Mauritian economy. Once again, thank you, Mr. Khushiram, for your invaluable contribution. We are truly grateful for your time and effort, and we look forward to future opportunities to learn more from you in the days to come. Thank you all, and have a wonderful evening. May I now request Meenakshi and our just present a bouquet, a vote of thanks to Mr. Khushiram. Please. I think we can all give a warm round of applause to our
Thank you very much.
I think we can all move to some refreshments and IT outside.